So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 220th episode. In the last 219 episodes, more than 3,500 school leaders have spoken on this very platform, shared their ideas, opinions, innovations, and what all new are they doing in the education space. नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है ब्लब वर्ल्ड वेब टॉक्स के 220वें एपिसोड में। पिछले 219 एपिसोड में करीबन 3,500 से ज्यादा शिक्षाविदों ने इसी प्लेटफॉर्म पर आकर ये शेयर किया कि वो शिक्षा के साथ क्या नया कर रहे हैं और शिक्षा उनके साथ क्या नया कर रही है। नमस्कार, मैं हूं दक्ष गौड़। आई एम वन ऑफ द फाउंडर्स ऑफ ब्लब वर्ल्ड एंड द वर्ल्ड टीम पार्लियामेंट। टुडे इन द नेक्स्ट 60 मिनट्स दैट यू आर हियर विद अस, हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे टू एक्सप्लोर वन मोर आइडिया फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ टीनेजर्स दैट व्हेन दे सी हायर एजुकेशन तो वो दुनिया को कैसे देखते हैं, हाउ डज इट इम्पैक्ट देयर लाइफ, एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली एक बहुत क्रिटिकल और क्रूशियल पॉइंट जो अभी एजुकेशन इकोसिस्टम में इंडिया में काफी डिस्कस किया जा रहा है, विच इज इसेंशियली द कॉस्ट ऑफ एजुकेशन। कि जब शिक्षा की कॉस्ट बहुत बढ़ जाएगी और उसकी शेल्फ लाइफ बहुत घट जाएगी तो चैलेंज हो जाता है कि जब आप यूनिवर्सिटी डिग्री जिसकी शेल्फ लाइफ किसी जमाने में 10 साल 20 साल की हुआ करती थी, उसे अभी जब दुनिया भर के वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम्स जैसे फोरम ये कहेंगे कि उनकी शेल्फ लाइफ हर महीने कुछ महीने घट जा रही है, तब ऐसे में शिक्षा की कॉस्ट एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर हो जाएगा। और भविष्य में शायद ये कहीं ना कहीं एक विजुअलाइजेशन जरूर होना चाहिए कि क्या एक बच्चा अपनी हायर एजुकेशन खुद फंड करने की स्थिति में होना चाहिए। So to discuss and explore this, that are there really some ways that a teenager in India can fund their own education? Are there some ideas? Are there some things that could be explored? Is what we're going to talk about in the next 60 minutes. Before we start the session, just some ground rules. So think of the Blub World Web Talks as a speaking sprint. This is not a marathon. ये 100 मीटर की रेस के जैसी है. So once the speaking time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to keep the activity crisp and entertaining for everyone. Secondly, it's a bilingual platform. तो आप अंग्रेजी या हिंदी में से किसी भी भाषा का इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। कोशिश करें कि इन्हीं दो में से कोई एक हो, क्योंकि तीसरी मैं समझ नहीं पाऊंगा। और इसको बाइलिंगुअल रखने का एक बहुत सिंपल सा कारण है कि भाषा जो है वो कभी भी ज्ञान का पैमाना नहीं होता। We just want ideas, a democracy, a repository of ideas, not just a show of language. भाषा को भाषा जितना एक मीडियम रखने दिया जाए, उससे ज्यादा ना बनने दिया जाए, तो उसमें हम लोग एक दूसरे से सीखेंगे ज्यादा और हमें जो सुन रहे हैं उनके जिंदगी में काफी कुछ एडिशन होगा। Thank you so much everyone for joining us today. This is the 220th episode of the Blub World Web Talk. Let's talk about something very interesting for teens, that how do you support your own education in India? भारत में आप अपनी शिक्षा को कैसे खुद सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, खुद फंड कर सकते हैं। So what are the ideas that school leaders have? But before we go to the school leaders, let's first listen to the university leaders, because they're the one who are at the receiving end of it, क्योंकि फीस वहां पे थोड़ी सी escalate हो जाती है। There are reasons for it, but let's know their perspective first and then get into the school principals. Let me invite the first speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mr. Abhyuday Roy, who's the Associate Director for Outreach and Admissions at Atlas Skilltech University from Mumbai, Maharashtra. Abhyuday ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
I understand the perspective that all of us have joined us today is to look at how teens in India would like to and can explore to fund their education. India is a country where still, and I am a parent of an 11-year-old, so I understand the pain every parent goes through. And I am planning for my daughter's higher education. And that's what all parents does, right? I mean, all of the speakers here are probably older than me and way more experienced than me, these school leaders who are here together with us. But having said so, we do it in a certain way. We have always felt the responsibility to plan for our children's higher education, not only school education, but higher education as well. But probably coming up the days when the generation has been adopting to the Western culture, there are students who are looking at funding their own education. I believe I, of course, talk to so many parents and to students as well over the years. I've been talking to them. I've been in the university education space for around a decade now. Having said so, this phenomena of funding their own education has been there and it is progressively growing. I believe the first and the foremost way that people look at is educational loans, right? And of course, parents are the first one to ask, where do I go to seek an educational loan? And not patronizing any political party in this country, uh, remaining apolitical as much as I can. I always tell them there is a platform that the government has launched back in 2009. At least it was announced in 2009. I don't recall when it was actually launched. Is a Pradhan Mantri Vidyalayam platform, right? It's a platform built by the National Informatics Center, wherein all the banks are there to provide educational loans. The student can make a login and apply to different banks from one platform. You don't need to go from an SBI to an HDFC to apply for an education loan, because education loan is such a proposition in our country. It does not remain, I would say, the prime focus of any bank. So it is a kind of a sidelined property for a bank, and they need to look at it in a different angle. So that's one. Two, what I see at my institute, of course, students do a lot of freelance work today, right? Students are coming well prepared. They are doing freelancing. They are doing freelancing in every possible manner. They are quite equipped nowadays. They have their own apps launched. They have different avenues working on different freelancing websites. I know we are predominantly a design university. So design has a lot of space where students can work as freelancers, but also we are a technology and a management university. I know I'm coming to an end. So they can, of course, work as a freelancer. So that's those are the two areas. There are several other ways that they can look at financing their education in the coming days.
Thank you so much, Abhyuday. So once you see my hand up in the air, that means that you have the final 30 seconds to conclude. So thank you so much for heeding to that. So I think some very interesting points that you talked about. Pehla is educational loan. जिसको financial world में दुनिया का सबसे खराब financial product कहा जाता है. But ये है कि हाँ, that is one of the most popular option for any student, specifically when we talk about India. एक आपका शिक्षा का ऋण जो है आप ले लें and उसको फिर आगे चुकाने की कोशिश करें. But there are a lot of challenges in that place as well. उनको एक्सप्लोर जरूर अच्छे से कीजिएगा, बिकॉज इंडिया में एजुकेशन लोन फाइनली पेरेंट्स का ही लोन हो जाता है, क्योंकि बच्चा शायद पढ़ के उसको ना चुका पाए, पेरेंट्स उसे कहीं ना कहीं चुका रहे होते हैं, बट स्टिल इट्स एन ऑप्शन. द सेकंड ऑप्शन दैट यू टॉक्ड अबाउट कि कोई ना कोई फ्रीलांसिंग या कोई ना कोई आप जीविकोपार्जन का तरीका निकालें, दैट यू योरसेल्फ मेक सम मनी आउट ऑफ समवेयर, ईदर आउट ऑफ फ्रीलांसिंग, ईदर आउट ऑफ सम प्रोजेक्ट वर्क और सम इंटर्नशिप और समर जॉब्स. इनको थोड़ा प्रमोट करना चाहिए. दैट आर यू रियली इन अ स्टेट वेयर यू कैन कमर्शियलाइज योर स्किल. अगर आपके पास कोई स्किल है, क्या उसको आप मोनेटाइज करने की स्थिति में हैं? कैन यू मेक मनी आउट ऑफ इट? Because once you learn that, because that's the core essence of higher education, that you learn how you monetize your skills, or typically learn the skills that are already monetizable in the ecosystem. Thank you so much, Abhyuday, for adding this to the discussion. I think you also talked about the government platform from where you can apply to multiple banks for an educational loan. That's also an option that must be explored. Thank you so much. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Anupama Ramachandra, the principal for Delhi Public School from Electronic City, Bangalore, Karnataka. Anupama ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself. And a very warm welcome.
Thank you, and a very warm welcome to all the other co-panelists, and a good evening to all of you. Since we are specifically talking about how students can fund their education in India, I'm just brainstorming myself, because both my sons had to kind of work on it. So I think I can give you some tried strategies that we have explored. So first and foremost, I think students need to do a lot of research. There are many educational institutions that do extend fee waivers. So they can think of applying for scholarships. They are available. So when we are talking about this, students should not be rigid with their choices or options, saying that I just want to go to this college only because it's rated at the top most or whatever. If the same course is available in another college where they are giving fee waivers, I think they should consider that. And another important thing I would like to tell students is they should maintain consistency in educational performance in their previous years, so that universities do consider them for fee waivers. They cannot simply show them a one-time high and say that I want to apply for fee waivers. That's not going to happen. So they have to very mindfully work for at least 4 or 5 years in advance. They have to start saving also. They can always tell their parents that instead of this, why don't you save it up for my higher learning. Then, of course, there are many universities that conduct paid educational programs where they get a stipend. They can offer their services in their area of expertise and they are paid for it. So it takes care of a part of their fees. And I think already Sir has mentioned part-time jobs. I'll not speak about that. There are many organizations like Rotary. I'm a Rotarian myself. We are waiting to offer financial aid to deserving students. Many years they don't approach us and we are not able to identify such students. So they can tap these kind of resources, organizations like Rotary Club or Lions Club. A lot of corporate offices have CSR activities. They would love to fund somebody's education because it is an investment for the future. They can explore that also. And another thing that I want to speak about is the School Alumni Association. There are many well-to-do schools where the alumni organization would happily come forward to support students of their own institution. So they can also, maybe it has never happened, but they could always explore that, because alumni associations do big things for their schools when they can afford it. Why not fund students also? And I think a student should do a lot of research on where help is available, who do we approach and when do we approach. So these are the 3 critical factors: who, when, and how. How do they write their application? I think there are many options available for deserving students. The question is, are the students ready to make themselves so deserving that people come forward and say that we want to fund your education? Even in India, maybe it is not as extensive as it is in the Western world, but help is available. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anupama. I think you focused your prerogative around the kind of help that could be generated, the kind of financial aid that could be generated. Some very good ideas that you talked about, that while you're searching for an institute, fee waiver या scholarships देने वाले college या universities ढूंढिए. Secondly, you talked about कि if you have a college choice, leave the rigidity. You may have your choices, but don't keep your rigidity around it कि नहीं मुझे यहीं जाना है, यहीं पढ़ना है. वो मत कीजिए. Don't go only on the brand or the kind of institute. Find out the course and the relevance of it. Consistency in education rankings. अपने जब से आप पढ़ रहे हैं तब से continuously कोशिश कीजिए perform करने का, so that you have something to show, your portfolio to show people who can and who would want to support you through. Start saving for higher education. This is something very interesting and I think must be introduced by the schools now. Schools को एक कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि एक savings club बना दीजिए ताकि बच्चों को saving, investment, उसका use, financial literacy, ये सारी चीजें वो सीख जाए. Find stipend giving universities which are now there in India as well, like the Zoho University, जो श्रीधर वेम्बू ने शुरू की. I think they also work on a very similar model. Rotary, CSR departments, again, you can reach out to them, but it's an extensive process and it takes a lot of paperwork, a lot of connections and a lot of talking to people, but yes, still it's an option. And I think a very good option, which is School Alumni Association. I think schools को उस पूरे इकोसिस्टम को टैप करके एक पूल तो बना ही लेना चाहिए, जैसा दुनिया भर के बहुत सारे schools में बहुत सारे देशों में है. I think there is a hidden potential there that must be utilized ताकि the ecosystem of education loan happens voluntarily. कि आपको एक you get a loan as a gift which you can part with once you have the next generation. जिसको इंडिया की माइथोलॉजी में शायद आप ये भी कह सकते हैं अपने गुरु का ऋण जो होता है. In Indian mythology, there are 4 types of loans that you're born with: पितृ ऋण, पुत्र ऋण, अपने गुरु का ऋण. तो उसमें से एक जो गुरु का ऋण है वो शायद आप ऐसे चुका सकते हैं. Thank you so much, Anupama. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Dr. Manoranjini V, the principal of Amrita Vidyalayam from Ernakulam, Kerala. Manoranjini ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Namaste and good evening. And I was just thinking about the problems the children they face, especially after their school years. Fortunately, I think we have a lot of opportunities, especially when we started with the technology. Advancement in the technology is giving a lot of opportunities for the children to work and learn. data entry. And now I think the children, they are extremely good in technology. So there are a lot of chances for the children to be part of data entry work. So they can study, and after their classes, they can do their work. Not only data entry, then graphic work, and again, digital marketing and technology. We will be, when we think about the technology, a lot of white collar job, the children, they will be getting part-time work, they will be getting, they can earn more also. And then when we start with the new national education policy, already it started. So by degree first year, they are getting a certificate. So they can, try for a work. And again, second, year, they are getting a separate certificate. And every level they are getting certificate, and that will help the children to earn a job. So, and they can go for any kind of work even after the classes. Even there are opportunity for the children to work in agriculture field also. So a lot of activities, agriculture is actually in India, it is going back. So they can, even I know children, those who are doing a lot of agricultural work and in the field, own field, and they are selling the product after cultivation. I know many children, they are doing it. And again, there are even a very simple work like, they can deliver the food in the doorsteps, Zomato, and lot many opportunities the children get. Even in school, as a principal, I know children, those who are working even after the school time and earning. So lot of chances are there for the children, and that will help the children to be responsible. That is the thing. Whether they are not having the work, that is different, and they know the value of money by working themselves, and they are spent for their education. It is a good sign. So nowadays we are facing a lot of problem, like the children are falling into addictions, mobile addiction, and even other kind of addiction, substance abuse, and a lot of problem. But when they are responsible, they work and they earn and they spend for their education, these kind of addictions to an extent we can control, and we can encourage the children to do that. It is not because the parents are poor and they don't have money. It is just for making them responsible, and they feel proud about themselves. So that is my opinion regarding this. I look into that very positively, that that will help the children to be very proud themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manoranjini ma'am. And I think it's a good perspective that we talk about summer jobs. Yeah, teen internships. Now the national education policy also wants teenagers to start doing internships since they're 13. 13 साल से ही बच्चा कुछ ना कुछ किसी न किसी तरीके के जीविकोपार्जन में इन्वॉल्व होना चाहिए. But I think there's a taboo around it in India when we talk of internships for teenagers and teenagers making some sort of money. So I think more discussions around it should be done, and it should be opened up, because now when you look at the kind of economies that we are in, we need to learn to monetize as quickly as possible. And it should be a part of discussions in parent-teacher meetings and everywhere, that should students do internships and should they be making some sort of money? Because in India, we want that before, until unless you don't complete your university, don't go for any work. But now with the multiple entry exits also coming in the university at first year level, at every level you can exit with a certificate or a diploma, you can test out the skill that you have built. That, for instance, in the first year you built out a skill, try it out in the actual job world. Does it pay you well? If it doesn't, come back to the college. This is what NEP actually wants, that people should be floating around in work and in education. So thank you so much, ma'am. And I think the last idea that you gave, that de-addiction by teen internships and summer jobs, this is something that must be seriously looked into, because substance abuse has become an actual challenge in schools. And there needs to be more serious discussion on this. I think we'll take one more talk on specifically on this, because substance abuse is really a big challenge that's making it difficult for schools to handle teenagers now. So thank you so much, ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Mr. Rakesh, Bhatia, the Director for Academics from GD Goenka Public School from Kasganj, Uttar Pradesh. Rakesh ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Good evening to everyone, all the panelists and all the viewers. Absolutely agree with all. It is really a tough time for the institutions also, and for the children also, to understand that how we can move ahead in this present scenario. As per the guidelines shared in NEP 2020, this is true that vocational education is a taboo in India now, because if you share with the parent that we are going to train your child on this vocational subject, they feel, why you want my child to learn this or learn pottery or learn something else? I don't want to make them a potter. I don't want to make him or any XYZ. I want him to become doctor, engineer, or whatever they are having in their mind. But I think this is the high time we need to educate the parents that it is really important for an institution to identify the real potential of the child at the right time. That's the reason why vocational subjects are introduced in formal school education. And I'm absolutely agreed with all the panelists that unless and until the child will identify his or her own potential, he'll not be in the condition to monetize it at the right time. And nowadays, it is very easy for a child who's very good in social media platforms to share, develop the digital content and work for other institutions or other organizations because they need it urgently. There's a lot of scope in digital marketing and a lot of things need to be done over there. So these are few things which I think are really important, and we need to educate the parents so that the teen in India will be in the position to support their education, to support their higher education. I would like to share one example of Ankita Nagar of Indore. She's a daughter of a vegetable seller, and with the help of the scholarships shared by the government, she completed her education. And then finally, last year, she cracked the civil judge examination. And so this is the success story which I really wanted to share with all. There's no barrier for any individual who's having perseverance, who is determined, and who's having the right kind of mindset. Though it has been observed that maybe that most of the students have lots of resources, but those resources are not properly utilized. So that's the reason most of the students are not able to perform well, even after getting higher education in prestigious colleges. So this is the right time to educate each and everyone, to educate the parents. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Daksh.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. And I think the discussion really has to move from the teenager to the parent and to the society, that let's not make a taboo out of vocation. कि भाई मेरा बच्चा कोई स्किल, कोई ऐसी चीज जो तुरंत मोनेटाइजेबल है, वो क्यों सीखे? When they have a very big aspiration of becoming an engineer or a doctor, I think there needs to be a balance between discussions that are focused on aspiration-based careers and reality-based careers. इन दोनों के आसपास कुछ ना कुछ थोड़ा डिस्कशन या कनेक्ट बने रहना चाहिए कि पेरेंट्स को भी ये चीज समझनी चाहिए. इट्स नॉट ओनली अबाउट नंबर्स, नॉट ओनली अबाउट एकेडमिक, इट्स अबाउट एक्सप्लोरेशन. कि बच्चा जब टीनेज में है, देयर शुड बी मोर करियर एक्सप्लोरेशन, कि वो अपना वोकेशन भी ट्राई करके देखे, 4-5 चीजें करके देखे, क्या पता कौन सी चीज उसके पोटेंशियल में मैच कर जाए एंड उसे जिंदगी में नई अपॉर्चुनिटीज के लिए खोल दे. एंड आई थिंक दैट लाइज विद अ लॉट ऑफ करियर ग्लैमराइजेशन, क्योंकि किसी जमाने का हलवाई आज का शेफ होता है. So that's the way terminology changes, and that's the way they get, the career gets white labeled. So we'll have to figure out more ways around it. Thank you so much, sir. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Sangeeta Uppal, the principal of the Millennium School from Indore, Madhya Pradesh. Sangeeta ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Namaste, everybody. I think the last one, has to have a conglomerate of all the ideas. So we were talking about financially, like supporting teens, supporting education financially. But I'm also thinking that the generation we are, they need to even sustain education in themselves also for future. That motivation has to be there. As ma'am rightly said, parents are, I started in the beginning, the parents are all, planning everything. They still are. The thing is that you have to give that motivation to the team that, yes, now you can do it and it is your time. Having the largest workforce in the world makes it even more challenging for our children. Like in my, when we're talking of where to get these resources, the children, where are they going to find resources to sustain themselves? For example, there are a lot of NRIs who are giving it back to their country. You have to find them. In my school, there is a foundation by the name of Sitare Foundation, which works with the underprivileged children and right from, catching them at grade 6 to their university education abroad. Only thing is you have to perform. As ma'am also rightly said, you have to be consistent. So those are, you should explore those. Like people like us, are looking around. Where are these children? We will help them. So they should, children should also be aware of these things, that there are NGOs, there are NRIs who are trying to give it back to their country. The other thing which I feel is, like ma'am said, that there are part-time jobs available. Digital content writing is the in thing. You will find everybody, and I'm a very young YouTubers now, speaking, writing. And then Indore, as sir rightly mentioned, we have startups here. Indore has been so popular in startups. There are young 20, 21-year-old kids doing wonders here, starting things, and that is the motivation, I think. And they are helping. We talked about alumni. I think city also helps, that the whole cosmos of the city, अगर उस city में वो culture आपने develop कर लिया. सर ने अंकिता नागर की बात की, एक अंकिता नागर नहीं है सर, या बहुत सारे हैं. इंदौर में एक सफाई वैसी वाली नहीं है, बहुत सारी 2-4 challenges भी हैं, हम कोटा भी बने हुए हैं, लेकिन at the same time we have these young women, men, startups which they are doing, and they're coming from small places of Madhya. आप imagine नहीं करेंगे कहाँ से आके क्या idea begin करते हैं. तो बच्चों को ये जो role models है ना, ये भी दिखाने जरूरी है. वो cricketers, sports stars जरूरी नहीं है, ये जो इन सोसाइटी में जो हमारे रोल मॉडल्स हैं, जो बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, कम उम्र से कर रहे हैं और मोटिवेट करते हैं दूसरों को. तो एक तो ये चीज है कि हमको बच्चों को देना है. एक और चीज जो है डिग्निटी ऑफ लेबर. कोई भी अपनी एजुकेशन को सस्टेन तब तक नहीं करेगा जब तक हम ये नहीं बताएंगे कि ये वोकेशन वो वोकेशन अलग है, आज जरूरत है तो ये काम कर लो. The day we do that, I think the children will learn to sustain themselves financially also. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The city also adds a lot. और ये बात बिल्कुल सच है. It takes a village to raise a child. एक पूरा गांव, एक पूरा शहर लगता है एक बच्चे की परवरिश में. So it's very right कि हम किस तरह की opportunities स्कूल तक लेके आ रहे हैं. शहर में किस तरह की opportunities, when we talk of entrepreneurship, when we talk of startups, when we talk of even people or NGOs who are ready to support teenagers, कि आप कैसा परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं कंसिस्टेंटली, उस बेस पे उस पोर्टफोलियो को वो लोग आगे लेके दे are ready to even fund you for that. So I think there needs to be a lot more discussion and exploration on funding of higher education, because हम बहुत सारा डिस्कशन इससे जरूर कर रहे होते हैं कि लेटेस्ट करियर कौन सा है, सबसे पेप या हिप जॉब कौन सा है, या कहाँ हमें जाके अभी एनरोल कर लेना है, कौन सी यूनिवर्सिटी हमें बहुत पसंद आ रही है. बट आई थिंक देयर शुड आल्सो बी अ डिस्कशन दैट टॉक्स अबाउट द फाइनेंशियल सेंसिबिलिटी ऑफ दीज डिसीजन, कि इसके अंदर किस किस तरीके के वित्तीय जोखिम शामिल हैं, हमें वो भी देख लेना चाहिए. लाइक द वे म्यूचुअल फंड्स टेल अस, it's the same way that even in education, it's a very big investment, and specifically in India, for any parent, for any family. तो सारे aspects को हमें जरूर देखना चाहिए. So thank you so much, Sangeeta ma'am. Now before we conclude the session, it's an open floor. अगर कोई ऐसी चीज थी जो कि आप ऐड करना चाह रहे थे लेकिन आपका समय खत्म हो गया, या ऐसी कोई एक चीज है जो आपको अभी याद आई है जो आप बोलना चाहेंगे, so this is the time that you can unmute yourself and share your idea. Just take care of each other, कि एक दूसरे के किसी आइडिया पे हम लोग चढ़ ना जाएं. So if anyone wants to add something before the session, yes, Anupama ma'am, over to you, please.
So I just wanted to add, Daksh, that this supporting oneself should become, like Sangeeta ma'am said, the culture of the community of the country. And it should not be explored in desperation कि कोई हमारा support नहीं कर रहे, माँ बाप भी हमें support नहीं कर रहे, चलो हम कुछ करते. It's not like that. Like in the Western world also, irrespective of how rich their parents are or how well-to-do, the children are left to fend for themselves. And I know a lot of people who are working and still paying off their loans because they had to think of their higher education themselves. So we should not be discussing such cases in isolation. because this should, I think we should be discussing people who don't fund their own education, and make them feel that, oh, we didn't do what everybody else is doing. And students should be made to, they should be mindful of the fact that if your parents are supporting, it is kind of a loan that your parents are giving you. In Indian culture, they say that you have to take care of your parents, but I would say that it would be good if some of them could actually return the money the parents have invested in them, because they sacrifice so much of their own well-being and give it to their children. I think to think of commonality of the concept of funding their own education would be in good stead to teach our children that it is okay for you to think of your future.
I think very rightly pointed out कि हमें इसको glamorize करना होगा that you have to take care of yourself financially as well. आपका जो पित ऋण है वो केवल पिताजी बन के नहीं पूरा हो जाएगा, जो आपके माँ बाप ने किया है उसे वापस देने के भी कोई ना कोई तरीका ढूंढिए. And the way it actually has been in Indian society, कि जो एक ब्रह्मचारी है जो गुरुकुल में पढ़ रहा है उसके लिए जिम्मेदारी है कि वो भिक्षा लेके अपना पालन खुद करे. तो हम ऐसा ना हो जाए कि एज एन इंडियन सोसाइटी हम अपने बच्चों के प्रेम में इतने न डूब जाएं कि हम ये भूल जाएं कि साहब ऋण में एक जीवन का एक पार्ट है, उसका भी अपना एक रोल है, एंड द स्टूडेंट और द टीनेजर हैज टू प्ले अराउंड इट. So if anyone wants to add something, it's still an open floor. Yes, Sangeeta ma'am, over to you.
One thing I would want, to stress here is whatever type of job the children are doing, the parents have to associate and give a feeling of pride to it also. अब कोई जोमेटो पे कुछ करने जा रहा है, जैसे मैम ने बोला, ना पेरेंट विल से सब्जी बेचोगे, खाना देके आओगे, that mindset also has to change. We are all talking of funding, as sir rightly said, parents are the biggest fundraiser for their children, but at the same time the parents have to break that umbilical cord for future and tell them at least learn the value of money. Wherever we are finding these problems, where, like sir was talking about, these changes and this procrastination, who is responsible? Sorry, the children are not responsible. We are responsible. As adults, we have handed it over to them on the platter. Did we allow them to struggle? Did we even, leave them to face eventuality, reality in life? So I think the time has come, where we counsel the parents also, maybe through your, channels, that कुछ भी करे, maybe एक courier boy की तरह काम कर रहा है, summer job ले रहा है, लेकिन उसको take it with the, with feeling of pride कि my child is learning to be responsible. जब तक हम वो नहीं करेंगे, तब तक बच्चे खुद self sustain करना नहीं सीखेंगे. They can look for grants, even universities will waiver off fees for brilliant children. But at the same time, those are not very easy ways to find. Small jobs will help you, but those difficult roads will only be, you can cross, when we say two roads diverged in the wood and I took the one which was not taken by. So the children will have to take those roads, which have not been taken by it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. खुद को support करना, self-help या self-support is very important, and उसका mainly glamorization, क्योंकि parent जैसे ही उसको देखता है उसे लगता है पता नहीं बच्चे का क्या exploitation हो जाएगा. So he has to understand as a parent, let them taste a little struggle, कि थोड़ा बहुत तो देख लें उसके आसपास क्या हो रहा है. I think Manoranjini ma'am wants to add something. Ma'am, over to you, and then over to Abhyuday ji.
Yeah, I just want to say that actually these things are happening. The taboo, as we already discussed, it is mainly because of the parents' attitude in India. I don't think it has come even from the early, India when we were having the Vedic period that time. Actually, when we think back during the Vedic period, actually the teachers, education, they were completely doing with the Guru, Acharya, and they were helping the children to do the work also. After the Gurukulam, when they come out, directly they are doing their work and they are getting into life. It was our system. In between, I think maybe because of the colonialization or whatever it may be, I don't know exactly the reason. And the parents, they started taking care of the children too much. And now it is the need of the hour that we need to have, we need to educate the parent. Actually, nothing is wrong with the children. The children are, as I mentioned earlier, and they are getting into addictions only because of the behavior of the parents too. And they are not getting proper guidance, proper education from the parents. And I am sorry to say that from the teachers like me also. So we all are under that concept that we have to tighten the children, otherwise, they will go wrong. So, but we need to appreciate them, accept them as they are, encourage them to work themselves. And that is more important. Educating the parent is need of the hour, I say. Thank you.
I think parent perception is very critical. How well are we, managing it, elevating it, or uplifting it is what will make all the difference. That if the parent perception changes about things, things will change very quickly for students, for teenagers. Abhyuday, over to you.
Probably this would be a bit of a repetition, but what I wanted to add is two things. One, I believe as Indian parents, we have come through a phase where we have got into a notion saying whatever we have not got as parents or as children ourselves, we'll try and provide that to our children and probably better and an enhanced version to them. This mindset has got us where we are today. Because, back in the days, as Manoranjini ma'am was saying, parents were able to fund their children till high school. They were doing tuitions, they were teaching students, they were doing several other things and funding their undergrad and probably masters as well, right? But as our economic system started changing, we got into the mode where we are trying to provide more than what we have got. Probably I heard this somewhere in some forum and I really love this statement that a person made. We should look at giving our children controlled struggle. I love that phrase called controlled struggle, right? This is something that we are not realizing. Probably I'm a person from 80s, right? So I was born in the 80s and I have seen the old world, right? When we were using a black and white TV and a radio, and in a today's world, right? So we are in a state where we are ready to accept that our children would go and join and do a Zomato delivery or even sit at doing some work to fund, if not the whole, at least part of their education, part of their pocket expenses, right? It really does not matter because, when we look at West, we all love looking at West. Why do we see a substantial amount of youngsters only remaining high school grads? They are high school grads. They are struggling to find their way for their undergrad funding. When they find their funding for undergrad, then they go for their undergrad and eventually masters, because undergrad and postgrad are super expensive. Maybe it is getting very expensive in India as well, but it is probably super expensive in whether it is in UK or US, anywhere, right? In the Western world, or so to say the developed world. So we must look at those avenues, and if you are trying to probably get a follow-up from what they were doing, but this is what we were doing much earlier than they were doing. So why not get into that same mode, give us children a controlled struggle and make them understand you do this and the next step is this, right? Really that needs to change and all the parents need to understand that and prepped up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Abhyuday. I think Rakesh wants to add something. Rakesh, over to you.
Absolutely agreed with Mr. Roy. He's absolutely right. This is the time where we need to teach our children that they should learn how to handle the failure. And in case if they fail, the most important thing is what type of reaction they need to do in that case. Handling the failure is really important. Resilience and perseverance are the two important things. If they learn, they can overcome any situation in life. Strong roots are required. अगर roots उनकी मजबूत होंगी तो बड़े से बड़े आंधी तूफान कुछ नहीं बिगाड़ सकते. तो उन्हें अपने पैरों पर खड़े होना हमें बचपन से ही सिखाना पड़ेगा, ताकि वो आगे चल के जीवन के हर मुकाम में अच्छे से अपना प्रदर्शन जो है वो कर सकें. We all talk about only success, how to handle the failure, even from the school stage. This is really important. अगर कोई मैच में हार भी जाए तो वो अपने अपोनेंट को कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट करे कि this you have really performed very well. I congratulate you. And next time I'll try myself to be the better version. मैं और मेहनत करूंगा. So with these words, I would like to thank. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rakesh ji. So I think in the last 60 minutes, one thing that we have, understood is that parent perception पे बहुत सारा काम करने की जरूरत है, because we need to, re-glamorize going to work. कि एक बच्चा भी टीनेज में कुछ ना कुछ काम, कुछ ना कुछ जीविकोपार्जन देखे, सीखे, करने की कोशिश करे. ब्रह्मचर्य को वापस जिंदा करना होगा, क्योंकि जब आप इवन इन इंडियन माइथोलॉजी व्हेन वी ट्राई टू गो बैक, तो जीवन के जो चारों स्टेजेस हैं उसमें सबसे डिफिकल्ट ब्रह्मचर्य ही है. उसके बाद में तो आसानी बढ़नी ही है, घटनी नहीं है. So when it's going to be more comfortable in your advanced stage, we'll have to give them a controlled struggle. भले ही आप वो controlled struggle दें या actual struggle दें, but struggle must be an element of their daily diet. जो वो रोज कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं उसमें कहीं ना कहीं एक स्ट्रगल का एक स्टिमुलाई होना आवश्यक है. It will make life easier for them, not difficult for them. So at Blub World, we simply believed in a very simple idea where we started. हमने कहा कि बच्चों के आसपास कोई ऐसी कहानियां नहीं है जो कि उन्हें इंस्पायर कर सकें. हमारे पास बड़ी पुरानी पुरानी कहानियां जिनसे बच्चे कोरिलेट नहीं करते एंड वो उन्हें समझ में भी नहीं आती. So we said that let's try to find out teenagers across the world who are doing amazingly well in life, and let's share their stories with teens across the world. तो हमने यही किया. हर महीने हमने ऐसे बच्चे ढूंढे जो कुछ गजब कर रहे हैं एंड उनकी कहानियां हमने बहुत सारे बच्चों से शेयर करी. एंड यूल बी एस्टोनिश्ड टू नो कि ये जितने बच्चे बहुत कुछ गजब कर रहे हैं जिंदगी में, ये एक्चुअल स्ट्रगल्स हर दिन जी रहे हैं. एंड विद दीज so many inspiring teenagers, we built the world's first and only parliament of teenagers, which is the World Teen Parliament, जो इस साल अपने दूसरे साल में है, जहां हम हर साल दुनिया भर से ऐसे 100 बच्चे ढूंढते हैं who can change the world. They have to get elected to the parliament. We train them, we mentor them, and we even fund them, ताकि वो उन ideas पे काम कर सकें. This complete initiative is absolutely free. Nobody has to pay anything to be a part of it. The only thing that they need is intelligence, creativity, and a vision for the world. This year, there are teenagers from more than 10, 11 countries who are there at the World Teen Parliament who are working on amazing ideas. So the idea is again that controlled struggle. वो कहीं ना कहीं एक छोटा सा झगड़ा, वो एक छोटी सी मेहनत, जो एक छोटी सी दिक्कत जो उन्हें रोज कुछ नया करने के लिए मजबूर करे. So let's try to create more interesting stuff for teenagers and for children across the world. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the Blub World Web Talks. This was the 220th episode. We talked about how can you fund your higher education. If you want to listen to something more, something new, some new topics, keep telling us, and we'll keep bringing in education leaders from across the world to share their ideas on the Blub World Web Talks. Thank you so much, everyone. Namaste. Have an amazing evening ahead.